Even though rape came in and wanted to destroy me, even though molestation came in and seek to annihilate me, there was a man called Christ Jesus who met me on my Damascus road. And when I met him, he said, destruction shall not come upon you. When I met Christ on my Damascus road, when I met Jesus, when I faced my Goliath, he said, yes, there was a time in your mother's life when she contemplated abortion, but I was there too. When Satan showed up, I was there too. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Siri, your medical missionary next door. I am super excited that you have clicked on this video. You are in for a blessing. God has put everything together to let you know that you are loved, you are cherished, you have a purpose in life, and you are truly blessed. Well, we are going to be launching a new series starting this week called the 5-Step Process, the 5-Step series to mending broken hearts and the true connection for reversing depression. You can't afford to miss out. You need to share this video, share this channel. You need to like this video even before it begins, and be blessed. Let's get started. I am so grateful to God that He has decided to use me to bring this word to you. And the reason for that is because it's really my story and God's blessings all in one, and allowing you to see that if God could bring me through my difficulties, my circumstances, my broken hearts, my broken pieces, my broken vessels, God can definitely use you and bring you into purpose, teach you how to thrive and change lives. There's so much more in this series, and we're getting started with the 5 steps that are required really to reversing depression. This series starting today is series number 1. Step number 1, the season of depression, and what that really means when it comes to coming out of depression, anxiety, and really handling stress on a day-to-day level where you're not affected to the point where you can't function. We want to introduce the season of depression, and what I want you to understand is you are created with what is known as free will. When you were created, when God created you, He attached free will to your life, and what that really is your opportunity to choose. You get to choose. And what sin has done, what rape victims would oftentimes experience and sometimes cannot explain, is that what rape or abuse does is violate your ability to choose. And in that, oftentimes, if you ask a rape victim, person who's been through abuse, explain that to me, sometimes they'll tell you, I feel a void, I feel empty, I feel a darkness, I feel like I've died on the inside, and I really don't know how to get out of that space. This series is the beginning of how to release you from the bondage of in that point in your life where you couldn't choose. You now today have the opportunity to choose to be free. And that's what really season of depression is really in place to teach you today. I want you to know that even in the past, in your marriage, in your divorce, in your circumstance, in your pain, in the sin that took place in your life, even though at that moment you felt like you couldn't choose or you didn't have a choice, you have a choice today, and that is what will make the difference for a greater tomorrow. What rape or abuse victims need to understand is that the vacancy, the void, or the emptiness really comes intertwined in three sections of your being, and that's your mind, your heart, and your soul. In order for you to begin to heal and get freedom and get grace over that situation that has happened to you, I need you to comprehend that you will receive healing or need healing to first begin in the mind, the heart, and the soul. That is where you will find freedom, and freedom is what is needed in order for depression, anxiety, and stress to stay at bay so that you can live a life of freedom. What sin does is it creates a vacancy, a void, and an emptiness where the mind has to find ways to cope. And coping, we'll get into that in just a little bit. But what I want you to recognize is that the void, the emptiness, and the vacancy of the situation that happened to you sometimes is for your benefit. I want somebody to know that there is a brighter day. There is great joy coming in your life. And the beginning of that is the season of depression and recognizing what that really means for you. In the season of depression, I want you to recognize a few things. When the memory of a traumatic experience is repressed, it can cause mental health disorders. So in my situation, when I was molested and raped, what I want you to recognize is that when a memory such as rape or abuse or a trauma that has happened in your life is repressed, it can cause mental health disorders. And oftentimes we don't think of it that way, but when mental health disorders are in place so that you can cope, because that's really what the body's trying to help you to do. It's trying to help you to cope, to survive, to see tomorrow. You go through a few steps in this season of depression. And what I want you to recognize is it doesn't have to. Depression doesn't have to keep you in the dark. Depression doesn't have to hold you hostage. Depression doesn't have to rip you from the inside and make you feel that emptiness, make you feel destroyed from the inside out. And I think for me, the struggle with that was that no one can really see what's on the inside, right? What you feel. Nobody experiences that but you and God. No one really can comprehend in that moment when the abuse happened, when the violation of your being happened, and someone ripped that free choice, that free will from you. No one could be in your mind in that moment. No one feels what you feel in the present, in this time right now. And this is what I really want you to walk through with me. Family, you can't afford to miss a thing. Grab a notepad, grab a pen, pause this video if you need to, because there are so many amazing keys that I'm about to release to you that you can't afford to miss. Replay this video, start it back from the beginning, share this video. If you know that somebody in your family, somebody connected to you, a friend, a coworker, a spouse, if they are going through anxiety, depression, or even stress, where oftentimes it can feel overwhelming to you or overwhelming to them, you can't keep this video to yourself. You need to let them know that Inspired Grace International, Inspired Grace on YouTube, has an amazing video that teaches you really the beginning steps. And that's what step number 1 is, the beginning of how to get out of depression and the freedom to do that. There are so many amazing doctors, nurses who specialize in this field. I want you to really seek help if you need it, because this is where the rubber hits the road. And if you really want to be free, there's honesty that first has to take place in your life. And if you need help, I want you to ask for help, because depression is a very dangerous place to be in. And I want you to be free from this. I want you to be in a space where you are happy, you are thrilled, you are thriving in life. And that's exactly what God wants for you. In the stages of depression, and that can come in so many forms for different people. It took me 7 years to admit to what molestation was, or to even reach out to somebody to say, this is what happened to me and I'm struggling. Oftentimes people don't tell you is that when rape and molestation and abuse takes place in somebody's life, it really breaks down trust. Like trusting anybody in humanity altogether. And what that can do for you is cause you to pull back and shelter yourself in a way that people can't reach you from the outside. People can't see the wonderful parts of your being, the parts of you that is causing others to be attracted to loving you and showing you love and kindness and grace, and just filling the part of you that's void in this moment. So as we get into it, in my molestation stages of recovery and getting out of that and being free, I went through a stage called selective mutism. And really what that is when someone chooses, because of the trauma and the experience, to be mute. And I did that so that I can cope and get through life, especially in that dark space where I felt lost. I mean, we will discuss in series to come where I speak a bit about my attempt at suicide, because I was in such a dark place. As we continue in season of depression, I want you to recognize that selective mutism really is a coping mechanism that some abused victims use in order to survive mentally, to be able to live and see tomorrow. And that's exactly what happened to me when I chose to be mute. And I mean for weeks, for months, where I could even say years, where I I just did the bare minimum. I didn't let anyone in. I was sheltered. I had my walls up. Like you couldn't get through that barricade even if you wanted to, because it was my protective mechanism that allowed me to survive. And I wanted to survive, but I didn't know how to. And because I didn't have the tools or the equipment or trusted anyone really to walk me through that, I became mute for a period of time in my life. And that was really the mechanism that I use to cope. You might have a different coping mechanism, and as we dissect and get through the 5 stages of mending broken hearts, I pray above all that God would open your heart and show you that you can be free. You can thrive. You can make a difference in this world. And there's definitely a purpose for your living. And I really, really want you to know that I love you, that God loves you, and that you are greatly loved. And if I could in this moment, I would stretch my arms wide and pull you close to myself and hold you and let you know that you are loved. Coping really means struggling through and rising against and pitting oneself against. Coping is what you do in order to get through the barricades of life, get through the darkness, because you can't see. And it's almost like feeling your way around life, feeling your way around your circumstance, and really being sheltered in that dark room, that dark place, that pain, and feeling like you're trapped and not knowing how to get out. That's what rape and abuse and victims really go through. But oftentimes we don't know how to explain that. And when you're in that dark place of life, you don't know how to tell a spouse, tell a wife, tell a husband, tell children, tell a teacher, tell a counselor that I'm struggling, I am broken, I feel like I can barely cope through life in this moment. I'm struggling through, I'm barely feeling my way through life, and I need help, but I don't know how to. I want you to reach out to me and speak with me. I'm a life coach. I'm a mentor to rape victims. And this is the main reason why I have launched this YouTube channel. I want somebody to know that there is hope for a greater tomorrow. You can thrive. You can live a happy life. You can live a happy marriage. Repression, and that's what coping does. Repression is keeping from the conscience of the mind unpleasant or painful thoughts of your trauma, of your difficulty, of that part in your life where you can't go forward, where you're in depression and you can't see the way out. Repression is what causes that, and the reason for that is really your mechanism for coping and your way of survival. Rape, molestation, and abuse depletes your storehouse of trust, security, and freedom. It takes from your well, your spring, your inner being, the part of you that first loves yourself and loves God. It depletes, it robs you, it creates a void, it neglects everything that you are called to be, and it leaves a space in the part of you that only God can fill. And seasons of repression, seasons of restoration, seasons of bringing grace, seasons of depression is the beginning of that. What can happen then is spending your life not knowing how to love. And for me, that brought so much more than just me being a coach, being a mentor. Early in my marriage, I hit an inner wall that caused me to face not wanting to cope anymore. I got to the place where I didn't just want to wake up in the morning. I wanted to live. I wanted to love more. I wanted to demonstrate grace more. I wanted to see a brighter light than what I was seeing. In searching the scriptures and finding God and finding myself, the blessings of God, the freedom that comes with God, I really wanted to find that on the inside so that I can give that to my spouse, my children, my community, my church, my world. I wanted to be free, and I recognized in that moment that I wanted to thrive. I wanted to be filled with love. And I didn't quite understand what love was. And because of that, I had to go searching. And I didn't trust anyone to counsel me. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I've seen counselors where they spoke to me, but I didn't feel free enough to connect with them and share the vulnerable part of me that led me into depression. And what I want you to know is that there are people, there are doctors, there are healthcare workers, nurses, so many different kinds of profession where you can find a person where you can trust them. And this is the key word, finding someone that you can trust in order to really get to the part of you that really is needed to unlock the door to your depression, so that you can come out and be free and be filled with so much love. If you haven't grabbed a pen or a paper, if you haven't got a pen or paper in your possession, you're going to need one, because as we come to the conclusion of this video, I'm going to bring you through some difficult questions, and I want you really to be honest, because these are questions that are required to be asked in order for you to understand where you are in this moment, season of depression, in order for you to be free. Pause this video if you need to and grab a pen and paper so that you can write down what your answers are, really, without having to be fake, without having to pretend. I'm not there with you. I'm not violating your space. What I want you to recognize is that season of depression asks questions. And these questions are ones that you need to answer honestly. If you want to be free from depression, they're ones that you need to honest fairly, and sometimes give a little bit of grace if you need to, so that you can comprehend and recognize that season of depression is step number number one to being free from depression, and that starts with honesty from the inside so that you can be free. My husband knew about my journey, but he did not experience my path. Oftentimes in marriages where spouses experience conflict, sometimes what will happen is one will step back in order to suppress what is felt or to think over what is being processed. Or sometimes what you'll find is the other person or even yourself can become aggressive or physical, and all that is a mechanism to cope. And to cope through what? Cope through conflict in that moment. And the season of depression will let you know and teach you, and that's the reason why I'm telling you, grab a pen and paper, because as we go through this stage, step number one, what you will find is honesty and trusting and knowing where you are. Now, what I had to do in order for me to step into my state of freedom and oneness and being free, I had to let go of my rape, my molestation, knowing that I was not wanted for creation, and that's how I felt. And for me, it didn't matter how many times I tried to mend that. I never really got to the stage up until God taught me about season of depression where I neglected to set myself free. What I did was in my marriage, I got to a point where I wanted to love more. I wanted to love my husband more. I wanted to just fill his life with love more than just being a wife. I wanted to love my children more. I wanted to give them everything in my being without holding anything back. And one day in my personal time with God, he said that your void is still there, your emptiness is still there, and this space that we spoke about previously, God confronted me with it, and he said, you are still in denial that your rape, your molestation. Have you ever been desperate to fit in, but it didn't matter what you did, you just never fit in. You're always like that ugly duckling. You're always that person that was always on the outside. And that's kind of how I've felt for a long time until step number one, where God brought me into a space, relationship with him, where he became counselor, he became God, he became creator again, in taking my broken pieces, my broken heart really, and mending it and teaching me that I don't have to be scared anymore. The little girl that was stripped of her free will, he can give that back to me. There are so many avenues in my life when I felt like I wanted to give up. There are so many places where I was in my life when my emptiness, my disgrace, my void of feeling unloved and unwanted met me face to face as a mirror and told me so many things. When I met Christ on my Damascus road, when I met Jesus, when I faced my Goliath, he said, yes, there was a time in your mother's life when she contemplated abortion, but I was there too. When Satan showed up, I was there too, and I fought for you. Somebody in this moment, in this time, in your darkness, in your void, in your distraction, in your time of your need, God is saying, I fought for you. I fought for you when I laid paid on Calvary. I fought for you when I rose early Sunday morning. Where was Satan then? He couldn't hold me. Where was Satan then when I went to the depths of hell to gain the keys of life and death? When they hung me on the cross and they told me to get off, there was a test. There is a time when you are in your darkest moment in this depression, when this depression will tell you, stay there. In this depression, you will hear, stay there. Close the door. Close everybody off. But that's the enemy. That's Satan telling you, stay there. But I'm telling you, rise. Rise, somebody. There is a man called Christ Jesus. Rise, somebody. There is a man who laid on a cross and he said, I will carry the weight for you and I will go to the depths of hell to gain you. I know, somebody, the enemy is saying, stay there. The enemy plans to destroy, but God plans to restore. I'm telling somebody, early Sunday morning, where was Satan then when my God got the keys of life and death in his hand, and he knew that in this moment you would call him. He knew that in this moment when you cry, he would hear you. So I tell somebody, rise. I beg somebody, thrive. I beg somebody, stand. Because with God, all things are possible. I want you to like this video. I want you to share. I want you to comment down below. I want you to know that you are loved, you are blessed, you are cherished by the power of God. God is with you. Even though you can't feel him, God is with you. And in the moments when he can't see, God will carry you. I want you to be everything that God has called you to be. God has called you to greatness. God has called you to power more than you could ever know. You are the one that God is looking for. You are the one God is depending on to use to change a legacy for a family's generation. You are the one God needs to use in order to save somebody's life. You have the keys. You have the seed to a better tomorrow.